One of the most powerful ways to grow your company fast is to piggyback on the audience aggregation that others have done. So what I mean by that is using influencers, PR, magazines, podcasts, YouTube channels. Other people have probably aggregated a portion of your audience, and they've done the work to reach them and to get their attention and to stay in front of those people, right? And if they haven't done that, then you should be doing that if you know who your audience is. And we should all be doing this for all of our companies anyway. But in this case, whatever it is that you sell, I guarantee that there are some other people who have the attention of your dream audience. So how do you get in front of them? You either have to buy your way in. Another way is earn your way in. So there's three major types of audience. There's earned, owned, and paid. Earned, owned, paid, right? So owned is like your own in-house email list. And that's the gold standard. That's what everybody wants. You hopefully are already building an email list and an SMS list and a YouTube channel, social media channel. These are all eyeballs that you can kind of own. Although if you have to go through Facebook to get them, you still have a toll booth, right? So in a perfect world, you use a protocol and sidestep any of the toll booths. That's your owned audience. Your earned audience is because you earn that with a story. So companies like Tesla have relied on, up until recently, they haven't done any paid advertising and just did earned audience. And that's because they would create stories, and what they were up to was a big enough deal to create a real story. And so they got a lot of press. So if you're, let's say, just a typical HVAC company, or let's say you're a real estate agent, nobody cares. Sorry. That's the brutal truth. You being a real estate agent is not newsworthy. Now, SpaceX launching rockets at the moon, that's newsworthy. It's unusual. If there were 70 of those companies doing it, it would stop being news. But because they were doing something that was so far ahead of everybody else and whatever, they got a bunch of free news out of it. But now they've had to revert back to paid advertising because there's a whole bunch of companies making electric cars now. So point being is there's owned, earned, paid. Like paid is what you know. That's pay-per-click. That's, paid advertising. That's very straightforward. Earned is in my opinion, a little bit overlooked. And so what you have to do is you have to give what the person in the middle wants, which is usually, in the case of journalists, a story. It has to be actual news. In the case of influencers, then it has to be a story and some sort of hook and benefit to their audience combined with money. If it's conventional press, like a magazine, like a TV news station, something like that, you don't give them any money. You just have to have a really good story. So press is let's say, a higher level of newsworthiness. And then below that is influencers that with a lower bar of newsworthiness, but you have to also give them money. And let's say the lower the bar of your newsworthiness, if it's like, okay, I'm having a sale, then that's not really big news. It's like, seriously, I know you care, but does anybody else care? Do you care that your HVAC company is having a sale? Sure, if you happen to be in market, but what percentage of people are in market, right? I'll tell you, it's statistically like 3%. It's really small. So, and in HVAC, it's even smaller because you life cycles, and you get the idea. So point being is, if your story is not real newsworthy, then you're going to have to use more influencers. All right, so how does this all play to me? Like, what am I going to do about it, right? So I want to help you grow your company. And so, by the way, all of this is free training. Let me back up. My name is Roger. I'm at SwiftCloud. We have a suite that we built a long time ago called Impress. And it was all about press and PR and getting news outlets and creating press releases and then getting those to the right people. And in a second, I'm going to show you how to basically create your own news outlet. And basically, the goal is to get you free press and PR. So what you need to do is you need to have a story, right? That's number 2. And you create a list, which is called your press list. Now, there are companies that do press release submission, but they're not that good if you actually have a real story. Those are good for like SEO backlinks. And what they'll do is they'll typically just shotgun it out there. If you go onto some of these intermediary systems, there are places like Legit and Fiverr and these types of places that will do press release submissions. Well, what they'll do is they'll try and fish out of you a story, and then they'll submit it, and it can be not that cheap. These are typically used for some sort of trust validation. The problem is everybody can buy your way in, and so anybody who knows anything about internet marketing, just because I was written about in Yahoo News, doesn't really mean much. It's kind of gotten diluted over the years. It's not like being written up in Forbes. So anyway, I want to show you how to do the same thing for free. And it's actually going to be better and more powerful if you have a real story. If you just have a sale and you just want SEO backlinks, go buy one of those other systems. What they'll do is they'll shotgun it out there with no rifle targeting. They'll just shotgun it out there to, like, you know, these kind of news outlets that'll basically take anything and they'll syndicate it. And it will help you get some little tiny SEO bump. But if you do it wrong, it could actually hurt your SEO because of what's called contextual relevance, where meaning like it's your news outlet, your news gets run in with everybody else, including gambling and porn and who knows what, right? It's like it could be actually damaging to your brand if you do it wrong. So we're going to take a different approach. What we're going to do is we're going to go into SwiftCloud. Now, SwiftCloud has an incredibly powerful CRM that we're just starting to market because we were strong in the eDoc space. I'm not going to talk about that. Anyway, we have groups and audiences. So here in groups and audience, what I'll do is just create a new group, right? You just create a new group and audience, and this calls PR for a given story. Okay, so we bought SwiftWaver, not SmartWaver. I need to rename that group, so I can do that right up here. So we just create a group, it's like SwiftWaver. Let me get that corrected. All right. So what we want to do is then just add people to the group. And all we're doing is you just go to Google and literally look for like media relations. And what we recommend typically is make your dream 10 list and then maybe a dream 100 list of, like, if you could have even just one, you could do 1 and then 10 and then 100. I like the multiples of 10. And so if you had just one news outlet write about your company, who would it be? Start with that. Then go to 10. And you can think about whoever has the attention of your dream audience. And they should be within a narrow type. So if you sell to like 15 different avatars, right? So in our case, we have like the new CRM software can be used by any kind of field service. Well, HVAC is very different than junk removal. Very different, like, what podcasts they're listening to and what YouTube channels and stuff like that. But you want to think about who has the attention of your audience. So in our case, what we'll do is, let's say we want SwiftWaver, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just straight up go look for a competitor. And we'll just go to YouTube. And what we'll do is we'll look for, in this case, anybody that has mentioned one of our competitors, because maybe they would also want to mention us, right? So in this case, we'll look for SmartWaver. They're a good company. I got nothing bad to say about them. We compete with them. They're a competitor, right? Okay. So SmartWaver, they're not going to talk about us. They're never going to happen, right? So what we're looking for are channels that might have talked about them. So here's an actual ad. All right, so here we go. So here's Outliant. So here's an example. Here's an actual example. All right, so this is from Fair Harbor. We don't want that. Oh, let me mute this tab so that it's not messing with you. So what we're doing is we're just trying to find, we can also do the same thing for podcasts, right? But what we're trying to do is find a channel, Activity Messenger, SmartWaver Alternative and Calendar. Okay, so that's, if they're targeting the phrase SmartWaver Alternative, that means they are a competitor of ours too, right? I've never even heard of this company. They might be awesome. I don't know. So now we're starting to get into, this is completely irrelevant. This is, I don't know what that is showing, how to integrate, right? Okay, reverse mortgages. So all this stuff, and WhereWaver. Okay, so these guys are doing SEO backlinks. So I'm not finding somebody who has talked about that. So, okay, great, no problem. What we want to do is like, okay, let's go right to the avatar. Who's going to use the waiver software? Right, so let's try a different approach. What we'll do is we'll go to search for the avatar, and we'll look for escape room software, because they need a waiver when you join, right? So escape room software. Okay, great. So now we're finding an actual company that makes this. They're probably a competitor. What we're looking for is somebody who escape room business. Okay, now we're on the nose finally. So what we're looking for are companies that are talking about opening an escape room, and then what we could do is work with them and say, hey, we want you to talk about our escape room configuration of SwiftCloud, right? And so what we want to do is the same thing for you, for your company, and you find like who is talking about something that may lead to purchase of your system, right? Of your software, your service, whatever it is. So let's say hypothetically that I was in the junk removal business in Charleston, South Carolina. I live in Charleston. So what I would do is go to Charleston News, right? And all I'm doing is searching for that. And we're like, okay, Post and Courier. Great. So Post and Courier is a big news outlet. I know this because I live here. They're not going to just write about my company just because I opened a company. They don't care. Not really. That's not really news. Like, this is a legitimate news organization. It's not just some fluffy little blog, right? This is actually like a newspaper that's been around for 25 years and whatever. Okay, so now if I had actual news, like we picked up a dead body, we got called to a job scene and we picked up a dead body and the cops were there, right? And then we called the police and it was crime scene removal, whatever, right? That would be news, and Post and Courier would reply, would comment on it and attach us to that story. So if we could find some way of sort of piggybacking on an existing larger story, that is a good example, right? So here we have, okay, so this might be like a local blog, right? What we want is blog, Charleston SC blog, and submit your story, something like that. So what we're doing is, what we want to do is find some outlets that might talk about this. Well, if I have a junk removal company, this isn't niched down enough, because what we really want are, let's say, homeowners, right? So in that case, now we could use groups for anything. You can use groups for direct sales. I do, absolutely, right? So let's say we make a list of Charleston SC apartment complexes, right? And then I just go out and direct channel sell them. I'm not trying to get them to write about me. I'm trying to get them to buy our stuff. So I think you get the basic idea. What I want to do is find at least just one, right? So, okay, so who's going to write about a SwiftWaver acquisition? So we bought SwiftWaver, the domain and sort of the shell of a company from another company that used to be in the waiver business, went out of business. And it was a good fit and a coincidental name, and they were actually doing what we do, and managed to take things over, right? And have the blessing of the former owner, and I'm in touch with him and that kind of thing. So what we want is, in this case, AP, right? That's a good one. That's top shelf, right? So what we want is like Yahoo News. Okay, so what we want is Business Insider. They would probably write about this. So we go Business Insider and media relations. Just look for that exact phrase, media relations. Submit a press release. Okay, great. Now we're on the right path. So what we want is get on Forbes. All right, contact. Here we go. So business development, public relations. All right, so that's probably what we're looking for. So we could actually do exactly that. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to close this one. That AP was just an example. I'm just going to click add to group, and we're going to call this Business Insider. I'll just put this media relations. Later, once we have an actual journalist, then we want to put the actual human name in here. So if you are targeting news outlets, you want to be personal. The shotgun blast approach is not good. I'd rather have 5 good, powerful press mentions than 1,000 terrible ones. It's really that much different. Because Post and Courier, for example, if I wanted to reach the people in Charleston. Now, don't just necessarily go for vanity news. There's a ton of people, when I was younger and dumber, that would want to be in, let's say, TechCrunch. Startup founders, right, obviously want to be that. The problem is that's not where my customers are. Right now, I do not want to be in TechCrunch because I don't want to be on the radar of a bunch of competitors in terms of that. It's just vanity press. It doesn't do anything. It's good if I wanted to like raise money from venture capital or something, then maybe, but they're smart enough to see through that. Who I actually do want the attention of is, let's say, Junk Removal Weekly magazine, right? Something boring like that, because we're focused on sweaty startups right now, like all these kind of like in-person home services, maid service, right? So Maid Service Magazine, that would be awesome for us. So anyway, in this case, what we want is just create the contact, and what we need to do is just copy this, and we're going to come up with some sort of like Chrome extension, so we'll be able to go up here. We should, make that a little bit easier, but it's fine, right? So Illustrator, Freelancer. What we're looking for is, this is fine, right? So what we could do is start with that, and all we do is literally just hit save. That's it. Now we go hit back, and we're back in the group, right? So like I mentioned, once we have an actual journalist, if it's John Doe at TechCrunch Magazine, then address them by name so that when I email them, I know who the actual person is. The more personal you can make it and the more relevant, it's going to cut through the clutter. Because again, these people, so I used to work in TV news when I was in college, and we would absolutely run press releases if it was an actual story and you were making my life easy. What I mean by that is like it would be 3 p.m. and we got a news show that's going on at 5 and we got 2 minutes to fill. And it was a TV news. So it'd be like, okay, great. What do we got? It's a slow news day, right? And so if you sent that press release out on a really busy news day, then you're just not getting seen. If you sent it out on a slow news day, there's a good chance, and especially if we were kind of busy, then we might find something and run some fluffy little piece about some mattress company that was having a big sale. Not having a big sale, but like a new type of mattress, right? Hey, this new mattress is giving people back relief, right? That was like a consumer fluffy piece that'd be like, okay, they attached, a mattress company would attach themselves to a larger story and then demonstrate it, and they'd get free press because of that. Okay, so I think you get the basic idea. Again, is like give people what they want and give the intermediary people what they want. So everybody does everything for 4 reasons. This is a courtesy Andrew Bustamante, right? Rice, you can remember Rice. So reward, that's money. Ideology, coercion, ego, right? Reward, ideology, coercion, ego. So in this case, what we want is reward. If it's influencers, so if it's influencers that you're reaching out to, that typically looks like your YouTubers and your bloggers and maybe your like social media groups. If you go to them and say, hey, I'm going to give you an affiliate link and I'm happy to pay you 25%, 33%, 50% is common in the internet marketing space when somebody has a large audience, only if they have a large audience. Then in that case, you bring the product, they bring the audience, you come together, everybody's happy because you make a lot of money. So in that case, that's just be expecting that, right? And that's often for info products, right? So if you have a physical product and it's selling for $3,000 or $5,000 or $50,000, then that might be a different animal. Hopefully this has helped you. This is all part of, as I mentioned, press, but by all means, if you want to beta test this, then reach out to us. In the coming weeks, we'll have a little bit more robust training about how to actually get the press and then track it and make sure that you're getting some sales. Thanks.